The awakening begins in the hush of volcanic stone. Black rock still exhales heat. A thin, sulphur-scented wind moves across cracked ground. From a narrow fissure, a golden vapour rises, the ancestral breath of this place. In that warm, trembling air, a tiny flame wavers on the tip of a curled tail. He is fragile. He is new. Each ember at his tail is a metronome to a newborn heart. Here we begin, not with myth, but with possibility, imagining how a fire-adapted organism might first register the world through heat, scent, and the faint electrical hum of geothermally active rock. His first steps are cautious, hesitant, a small reptilian gait adapted to hot, shifting substrate. He tests the world with scaled toes, with a posture already tuned to balance, 2 feet beneath, tail low, eyes bright amber. The Charizard mother lingers at the ridge, not neglect but instruction, distance as pedagogy. She lets the newborn measure his own courage and learn to protect the tiny flame that defines him. Nearby, a spring, warmed by subterranean pockets, pools with mineral-rich water. He approaches, inhales the sulphurous air and sips. Mineral traces from iron and sulphur enter a body already primed for flame. Each intake is fuel and instruction, chemistry shaping physiology. Between sips he feels the world, the faint tremor of onyx grinding in a distant crevice, a shadow sliding in search of the same thermal refuge. Survival here is a negotiation of temperature, chemistry and movement. Storms of ash can erupt without warning. The land rearranges itself in screaming avalanches of rock and steam. In such moments the newborn learns the first law, guard the flame. When violent currents transform gentle rivulets into scalding torrents, the instinct to climb toward height, toward stability, becomes as important as any bite or strike. In the cracks, other lives wait. Serpentine hunters that slip between cooled stones, subterranean herbivores startled into motion. The newborn's pulse quickens. The mother watches, ready to intervene only when the danger is fatal, allowing smaller lessons to be earned through trembling flight and rebound. At first the bursts of embers are reflexes, small involuntary crackles that escape in startled breath. They are not yet weapons, but rehearsals, chemical rehearsals of a future control. With each flicker, tissues that will one day channel flame begin to organise, glands, ducts, and muscular valves training together in micro-labours of combustion. Real-world analogues exist. Some insects deploy exothermic chemical defences. Specialised glands and controlled ignition mechanisms are biologically plausible. In a hypothetical Charizard lineage, the coordination between gas production, storage and ignition would require highly specialised anatomy. Reinforced throat structures, insulating tissues, and ignition microstructures, perhaps mineralised ridges or bioelectrical discharge points. As he grows, the ritual of display replaces the constant fear. Wing shadows stretch against the ash-grey sky, a partial spread, a low rumble, a deliberate flare of the tail. These are signals, not mere spectacle, but language. Each flare communicates fitness. Each posture reduces needless violence. He learns to carve the land with flame, clearing carrion, renewing patches of thermal moss, opening feeding grounds for smaller species that nestle in the warm pockets left behind. He is simultaneously destructor and gardener. Keystone predators shape ecosystems through indirect effects, by removing carrion, by creating microhabitats, and by stamping spatial patterns of disturbance. A fire-capable apex would create thermal niches used by a suite of heat-tolerant organisms, establishing an ecological network built around controlled combustion. To claim the sky requires more than wings. It demands an engine. For a creature of large mass, powered aerial flight is physiologically expensive. Nature's solution, in birds and pterosaurs, is an efficient respiratory system, air sacs, unidirectional flow, and a high oxygen throughput. Imagine a Charizard with a similar apparatus. Extended air sacs intertwined with reinforced rib architecture, enabling short, powerful bursts of wing-powered launch and long, energy-sipping glides. Coupled with dense muscle attachments and hollow but strong bones, flight becomes possible in short, decisive arcs. Cliff-assisted launches, thermal riding, and slow sweeping patrols above volcanic canyons. How might flame be produced from organic tissue? Chemistry hints at mechanisms. Certain compounds release heat when combined. Volatile gases can be stored and rapidly mixed with an oxidizer and sparked. Nature gives examples. The bombardier beetle mixes irritable chemicals into a violent jet. Some fish produce electric shocks. For Charizard, a plausible model includes specialised glands that secrete volatile hydrocarbons, a chamber to mix these gases, and an internal ignition method, perhaps a bioelectrical arc or frictional microstructures that generate sparks. The tail flame then becomes both byproduct and vital organ, its intensity a signal of metabolic state and an external thermostat of distribution. This form did not appear fully formed. Imagine small, heat-tolerant ancestors that favoured scorched niches. Those that tolerated thermal stress reproduced more successfully. Over countless generations, selection favoured increased oxygen throughput, stronger forelimb musculature, and modified integument that resisted scorching. Scales as armour and insulator. Partial wings could have begun as display or thermoregulatory structures, gradually co-opted for aerial control. The flame's origin could be an exaptation, a trait originally used for digestion, microbial defense, or social signalling that later became an active tool. Even in a world that permits such creatures, their numbers would be few. The energetic cost of maintaining heat, the geographic limits of geothermal habitats, and the territorial demands of each adult ensure sparse populations. Where they do exist, their presence restructures food webs, plant communities, and microclimates. They are monuments of adaptation, rare, dangerous, and indispensable. Stories survive. Humans, who have learned to read fire and respect it, keep old accounts of campfires interrupted by small, curious flame lizards drawn to warmth. In the meeting of two species, one that shapes fire with intent, the other that harnesses it for comfort, bonds form and sometimes break. At dusk, the adult Charizard perches on a cooled lip of lava. The world exhales. His tail flame pulses faintly, steady as a lantern. Somewhere below, thermal moss takes hold in the burnt clearing he made, life reclaiming what fire has reshaped. If you enjoyed this glimpse into possible biology, subscribe to PokéScience for more episodes that treat Pokémon as living creatures. Plausible, strange, and scientifically fascinating.